back viewers to the 17th episode of the series Indian Press Law. We will be talking about right to information. So let's start. You are watching At Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease.
Hello and welcome. Today we will be talking about right to information, and the key points are as mentioned over here. First of all, we will talk about introduction, then purpose, provision of the act, history, specifications, features, process, replies, that means the reply from the government officials, fees for seeking the information, CIC, we will talk about Chief Information Commissioner, and finally we will conclude this lesson with exemptions of this act. So let's start. Viewers, before moving to the next slide, as I believe that the best way to learn is to interact, right? So do feel free to comment down your doubts. Now, coming to the introduction part, right to information. So what is information? Information as a term has been derived from the Latin word formation. We know the meaning of formation or forma, which means giving shape to something. That means giving shape to anything. Suppose I am having a pen. So I am having an information about the pen that it helps to write or it helps to express our feelings in a paper. So information means giving shape to something and forming a pattern respectively. Now, Right to Information or RTI Act is a law enacted by the Parliament of Lok Sabha on 11th May. So, mind it, on 11th May this act was enacted by the Lok Sabha. On 12th May it enacted in Rajya Sabha and it was finally approved by the then President in the year 2005, 15 June by Sir APJ Abdul Kalam. And this act applies to all states and union territories of India except Jammu and Kashmir, because as we know it's under state level law. Now moving on to the purpose of this law. So the first purpose as per mentioned over here is that to provide for setting out of practical reason to right to information for citizens. That means the main reason for the main purpose for this act was to provide right to information to the citizen. Now mind it viewers, citizen, as we don't have any freedom of press in India, so citizen is equal to journalist. So it was a must need as the Official Secrets Act denied passing of information. So in the year 2005 it was quite necessary to amend that act and to introduce a new act or new law, that is right to information. Moving on with the next part, that is to secure access to information under the control of public authorities. The information must be secured under public authorities. So moving on to the third part, that is in order to promote transparency and accountability in the working for every public authorities. That means Right to Information Act promotes transparency and accountability of particular informations for the public authorities. Now the last point mentions that this act explicitly overrides the Official Secret Act as it releases the Official Secret Act of 1889, which is amended in 1923. So though the Official Secret Act was amended in 1923 and it is considered as the oldest press law in India, so this act was rediscovered, or this act was overridden by Right to Information Act. So this was the main purpose of forming this act, Right to Information, in the year 2005. So now we are clear with the purpose of this act. So it's time to discuss the provision of this act. Now,
any citizen excluding the citizen within Jammu and Kashmir requests information from public authorities which is required to reply expeditiously within 30 days. This act also requires public authorities to computerize their records for easy access of information, and the most unique feature of this act is that it has built-in system of punishing the violators of this act.
Which means any authority, any public authority ought to give information to the public excluding the public of Jammu and Kashmir within 30 days. must reply within 30 days. And the second point mentions that the public authorities must digitalize their information, their records for better access of information. And the third point states the most unique feature of this act that it has built-in system of punishing the violators of this act, which may be like the Copyright Act. Now talking about the history, back in 1975, in the year 1975, there was a conflict between Uttar Pradesh government and Raj Nareen, and the matter came into light following a Supreme Court's judgment. And guess what? The apex court clearly said that every individual has a right to know about the way government or any government sponsored organization is working. So every individual is having the right to know what the government or the government sponsored organization is declaring or is maintaining. So now, prior to the act, so as talking about the history, so we must mention prior to this act, the international level freedom of press were there, freedom of information were there, which was Freedom of Information Bill 2000. Before the RTI Act, it was Freedom of Information Bill 2000. As we know about the oldest press law, which is the Official Secrets Act. Now the FOI, talking about the FOI, that means the Freedom of Information, this act never came into effective force and it was criticized for putting too many exceptions. Thus RTI came into force in the year 2005. Now in the next slide we will be talking about the specifications. So the specifications of RTI.
It specifies that citizen have a right to request information, takes copies of document, verifies fake document, work land records, takes certified sample of material for work, obtain information in the form of printout, CD or any electronic mode. There is no escape route for the government's department to evade the question.
To be precise, this was the specifications of RTI. Now moving on to the next part, that is the features of RTI.
So this video is going to be a big one. So please viewers pay full attention while understanding this video RTI.
Now coming to the point, the features. So specifically mentioned from the beginning under the article 19.1, that is right to speech and expression, right? So from the beginning in 19.1 article, the right to speech and expression is mentioned, but right to know was not specifically mentioned in the constitution. After 58 years of independence, the people of India got assurance of getting public information. That's why all NGO groups like Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative Delhi and many other have nicknamed it as Sunrise Act of the country. This is the reason the NGOs have nicknamed this act as Sunrise Act of the country and welcomed this act as people friendly. Well, now we have understood the meaning, that means in the introduction, the purpose, the provision of the act following with the history, specification, features. Now the process, how to seek the information from the government officials, right? So under this act, the authorities covered must appoint the public information officers. So the government or the government official must appoint public information officers, PIO, when any person submits a request to the PIO for information, for seeking information in writing. It is the PIO's obligation, that means the PIO must reply, must provide information back to the particular individual, to the particular citizen. In addition, every public authority is required to designate Assistant Public Information Officer to receive RTI request. That means the Assistant Public Information Officer receives the RTI request and the PIO solves and replies for the particular citizen. Talking about the replies of the RTI, the PIO replies, the RTI Act specifies in favor of the citizen that making the request is not obliged to disclose any information except the citizen's name and contact particulars. Now limits for replying the requests are: if request has been made to the PIO, reply to be given within 30 days of receipt. In case of APIO, means private organization, in case of private organization, reply within 35 days. Special case, in case of information concerning corruption and human rights violation, the limit is 45 days. However, if life or liberty of any person is involved, the PIO is expected to reply within 48 hours. That means though it's for 30 days, 35 days and 45 days span according to the government official, private organization and in special case, but however if life or liberty of any person is involved, then the PIO is obliged to reply within 48 hours of filing the case. Now in the next slide we will be talking about the fees relating the right to information. If information is not provided within limited time, it is treated as deemed refusal, right? So before moving to the fees, this part is important. So refusal with or without reason is answerable. Further information not provided in the time prescribed to be provided at free of charge. Now talking about the fees part, information has to be paid for except the BPL cardholders below poverty line. If fees is not paid, information will not be provided by the government officials or by the government. So if information is not provided within limited time, it is treated as deemed refusal. Next, coming to the BAP of this act. BAP hota hai. Jokes apart, CIC, the Chief Information Commissioner, is an officer who is the head of all information under this act. At the end of the year, CIC required to present report, and the report includes number of requests made to each public authorities. Second, number of decisions when applicants not given permission to access the documents, which means the refusal of the request. And the third point is that details of disciplinary action taken against any officer in respect of the administration of the act. The fourth point states that the total amount of charge collected by each authorities under this act. So this is nothing but a review system which is done by the CIC. Now moving on to the final part of this lesson, that is the exemptions of the act, that means the restrictions. So number one, the information available to a person in his fiduciary relationship. Fiduciary relationship means a person who holds a legal or ethical relationship. So not every information to be passed. The information which is required by the citizen, only that information will be passed. Number two, information received in confidence from foreign government. So information of the foreign government will be restricted. Information which would impede, that means hinder the process of investigation. Information, any information, so this point is pretty much self-explanatory, that means any information which hinders the process of investigation will be restricted. The fourth is cabinet papers including records of deliberations of the Council of Ministers, Secretaries and other officers will be restricted. So viewers, this is it. This was the video Right to Information Act 2005.
Thank you viewers for watching this video. Keep supporting at ease.